Hello everyone! Welcome back to my channel, Crochet by Katie Humes. I hope that you're having a wonderful day today. Today our tip is going to be more about the magic circle. This is our last little tip on the magic circle. I have part 1 and part 2, so this is part 3. And what I'm going to show you today is how to use a magic circle for amigurumi and how to use a magic circle for a beanie and how I continue on my work and how I hide my yarn tail. And I just wanted to show you really fast. So when I do amigurumi, I begin with a magic circle. This is my little Charmander. I do have a pattern for him up in my Pokemon Project album or playlist. So if you want to know how to make him, go on over to that playlist. But I wanted to show you how my magic circle appears more seamless. So instead of doing chain one, I work in continuous rounds. And what that does is it makes my work have no gaps. And I learned that technique about a year after I had started crocheting, and I just fell in love with it. So I wanted to show it to you. And I wanted to show you one of my first beanies, so to show you what I'm talking about, that gap. So when you do the chain up, I have found that you get a gap and a seam. And see this seam down my beanie? It doesn't bother me to put this on I wear this all the time. It's like 3 years old now, but it doesn't bother me to put this seam on the very back. But I have noticed that as I've gotten better at crochet, I just prefer to not have a seam. So this one has a ball on it, so you can't tell my magic circle, but going around and around, this one does not have that seam. Oh, there's a little fuzzy on there. So you can see that there's no seam on my work that I do now. And I just prefer, if I can, to, and this is a bun beanie, so I didn't even use a magic circle, but this was the chain up and go over, chain up and go over, and I just don't like how that turned out. And it took me a while to learn the techniques where I don't get these seams and these gaps in my work. And that is by doing continuous rounds, by crocheting in continuous rounds instead of chain one for your round when you're making a hat. When you're making a blanket or a washcloth, you do have to chain 2 at the end of the row or chain 3, depending on what stitch you're using. So today I'm going to show you how I start my amigurumi pieces with a 3.5 crochet millimeter hook. And then I'm going to show you how I make my beanies with a 5 millimeter hook. And so that's an E and an H. And I am using US terms today. And the yarn that I chose, it's like a gold color. I thought it'd be kind of fun. Hopefully it shows up well on the camera. I've just been experimenting with different yarns. Let me know in the comments what your favorites for me to use have been. I am using Red Heart again, medium 4-ply, and I did want to expound on how you can use any size of hook with this. How I was saying, you can use any size of hook with the 4. It's just sometimes a little bit more difficult. So I will show you that in a minute. It does recommend you use a 5.5 millimeter hook. I personally just love a 5 millimeter hook. And again, that's totally all of your preference. So this color is called Saffron. All right, let's begin. I'm going to begin with the amigurumi style. So I'm going to put our 5 millimeter hook over here off camera. So go ahead and begin with your magic circle. Again, if you need to see this slower, I can slow it down. For amigurumi, I use single crochet. So we're just going to chain 1, and I use 6 single crochets into the magic circle. 1. And as you can see, this is a much smaller hook than I have demonstrated so far, but it works just fine. 2. 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now what I demonstrated on the part 2 was always to do a slip stitch. And I wanted to tell you that I hardly ever do a slip stitch, so I don't really know why. I just wanted to close it so that you could see that it made a circle. But what I'm going to pinch and grab to close up that gap. I like my work to be tight. Now, I'm actually going to trim this tail a little shorter. so that you can see a little better what I'm working with. Oops. So now I have my 6 single crochet, so you can count back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What I'm going to do is hold this tail. We're going to crochet over the tail like this. But what I'm going to do first is insert my hook into that first single crochet that we made. I am not going into the chain space that I made to start my circle. And then I'm going to make sure and have my tail right alongside that stitch to make sure that I catch it when this is how you hide your yarn tail. So I'm going to make sure that I catch it when I do my single crochet. So you're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, and now you have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2. And that's your first single crochet. And on amigurumi, your second round is usually your increase round. So you go back into that same stitch and you put a second crochet. So you continue that. So that was your first stitch. Now you'll need to do, and that's, you've gone 1, 2. And how I count is I go 1, 2, 2, 2. And I just continue that all the way around. 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2, 6, 2, and that was your last one. And then so now you should have 12 stitches around, and that was your first increase round, and this is the top of your head of whatever you're making, if you're making a doll or a critter. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Now what I always do is I pull that a little bit tight to make sure that it's not going to wiggle around on me, and I go back and I count and make sure that I've got 12, and I snip this right there, and you can continue on however many rounds you need to go. Usually my next round is a single crochet increase, single crochet increase. So, and a lot of times that's what I found with amigurumi. It goes 6, 12, 18, and it's just multiples of 6 or multiples of 7, whatever you're making. So there's the magic ring, how to hide your magic ring, magic circle, how to hide your yarn tail, and this one is the style of amigurumi, how I do my amigurumi pieces. Now I will move on to the beanie. So I'm just going to pull this work out here. For the beanie, I'm going to switch hooks to my 5mm hook. So the smaller hook is going to go away for a minute. And we're going to make the magic ring again. I'm going to demonstrate with a double crochet. In my other video I said something wrong. I said a half double goes longer, but I meant to say that the half double takes less time than the double. But I said it backwards. So if you notice that, I'm sorry. I apologize. What I meant to say is when you're doing a double crochet, it can usually take longer because you have one more step. But what I said was a half double takes longer because the half double is smaller, but that didn't make sense at all because the half double is smaller. So in turn, the half double usually goes faster. So let's just make a magic ring of 12. And I'm not going to do this on film. You've seen me do this, so I'll meet you back in just a minute. So I have made 11 double crochet into the magic circle. I'm going to pull this just a little bit, and I'm going to do the 12th one with you. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now I've got 12 stitches, so I'm going to pull that, I'm going to pinch the center and pull the tail. And again, we're going to do the same concept that we used with the amigurumi of crocheting this yarn tail into the work so we do not have to go back and sew it later. It is my favorite tip of all time when I found out this, because I just do not like grabbing the yarn needle at the very end, and I know sometimes it's necessary, but just to take out that one step at the end is so exciting. Especially if you're making, you know, like 20 or 30 beanies. It's nice to just skip that sew in at the end step. Alright, so we're going to count back 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It always hides back there. That's why I always count. So, instead of slip stitching into this one like I showed on my part 2, we are going to do a double crochet into that, working in continuous rounds. So you yarn over, insert your hook to that first stitch, and again I'm keeping my tail right here so that I can catch it. Then I'm going to pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And again, the second round is an increase round, so you're going to go back into this same stitch for your second double crochet. And I count in just the same way. You can, you know what, I'm going to show you how to use a yarn stitch. Pause 1 minute. You can always use a stitch marker to mark your place. So we just did 2 double crochets. You would put it in this first crochet here, this first stitch. And if you do not have a stitch marker, if you don't have a stitch marker like this, I love these little guys, they're awesome, then you can use a regular piece of yarn. 1, 2. What I like about the yarn is you can leave it the whole project and then just pull it out at the very end and crochet around it. So instead of moving the stitch marker every single row, you can leave it here and know that that's where your work has to line up to. The stitch marker, you have to pull it out every time or you'll get a really big funky hole. Just I know that from experience. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the yarn since I know not everyone has stitch markers. I didn't have them until very recently, and I've been crocheting for about 3 years, so yeah, it's not something I had until recently. And it's not like they're expensive, I just didn't have it. I didn't really feel like it was a necessary tool. They were actually a Christmas gift from my husband. So, alright, we're going to continue on with that increase round. So we have done 2, and so this would be stitch number 2. And then the second stitch in stitch number 2 I call 2. So I say 2, 2 in my head. And then same thing, the third stitch. 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2, and see how this is just getting hidden in there? I love it. You don't even have to worry. 6, 2, 7, that's going to be stubborn, 2, and just keep pulling this a little bit tight, not too tight because you don't want to make it have a big funky lip. I lost count. I think this is 8. 8. It's hard to talk and crochet at the same time. 2, 9, 2, 10, 2, and once that gets really hidden in there, you can just leave it. 11, 2, and now we're at our stitch marker, and it should be the last stitch of 12. 2. And then you just continue in continuous rounds for your beanie, and then you do not end up with that seam that I was talking about. Where did it go? This horrible seam. This will be a seamless beanie. And you would continue with your, now we would go to a double crochet, 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets. So double crochet, increase, double crochet, increase. And then the third round would be double crochet, increase. So I will make a video on how to do a beanie, a full beanie, in a little bit, but right now I just wanted to go over the magic circle, or also called the magic ring, and all of my little tips. And if you want to move your stitch marker, you just pull that out and put it in your last stitch. And that round of your second round of increase, it should be 24 stitches around. So when you go back and count, you should have 24. And how you count your stitches is you just go on these little V's. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, but yeah, it's very simple, easy to move the yarn. Sometimes I still prefer using the yarn to the stitch marker, but I do love stitch markers if you're going to leave your work. So if I was going to leave this here, I love it because it does not go anywhere. My kids could come and, you know, mess around with it, and it's not going to be pulled out as easy as the yarn could be pulled out. So stitch markers are great if you're going to leave your work, you know, for a couple days, or if you have to leave it for a couple of hours. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's tip for the magic circle, and tomorrow we are moving on to how to do the slip stitch. I know I have showed a couple of slip stitches. I just want to slow it down and show you how to do it a little bit slower. So have a wonderful day today, and thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed this tip, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and if you enjoy my channel, please go ahead and subscribe. I love to hear from you. Bye!